the Thanksgiving November edition of the D-Tools What's the Buzz podcast. I'm Jason Knott, Data Solutions Architect at D-Tools, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Tim Bagonis, Chief Marketing Officer at D-Tools. Hey, Tim.
Hey, Jason. How's it going?
It's going really, really well. And I know Thanksgiving is a great time of reflection, and you've got some thoughts on what Thanksgiving means to you, Tim.
Well, it is actually my favorite holiday. It used to be Christmas, and Christmas is always Christmas. But Thanksgiving I love the most because A, it's food, and B, usually we have a full house and family all gets together, and we just get to hang out, eat food, watch football, argue. It's just lots of yelling. Great. It's my favorite. So
no yelling about the 49ers this year. Tim's a big 49ers fan, so hopefully your yelling
plenty of yelling about the 49ers this year. Plenty. But it's also, it really is a good time to I always like to count my blessings. I feel like I've always been very fortunate, but even when things are crazy and there's things that we can't control, it's always a really good time to look back, count your blessings, be thankful for the things we have. And one of the things I'm thankful for, segue, is we have an awesome guest today. And our guest is Patrick McCarthy, who's the Executive Director of Azione Unlimited. I remember first meeting Patrick at his very first Azione conference back in the day, when he was an upcoming journalist. Worked together ever since, and really excited for you in your new role. But we're excited to have Patrick. If you guys like our podcast, hopefully you do, you can catch us at the normal podcast places, Spotify, wherever else, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. So I would love to welcome Patrick McCarthy, Executive Director of Azione Unlimited. Welcome.
Woo! Yeah, freshly minted. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Jason. This is fun. This is like the second time I've been on the other end of this. I'm so used to it you're exactly right, Tim. I was a budding journalist, and you and I, Jason, we probably sat at the same table at the same Azione conferences, asking these questions, cutting our teeth. So it's a lot of fun. What full circle. Look at us now, Jason.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yeah, I think I'm more proud of you than you are of me.
I appreciate that.
One of the things that we did this, Jason and I started this podcast mainly because we've been friends for 20 years, right? Since I've been in the industry. Jason was one of the first people I met, and we would only get to see each other maybe three, 4 times a year at some industry event. And so we started this podcast as a way to really connect with our industry friends outside of the events, and with less drinks. And so we started this podcast to really just invite our friends and hang out for a bit and dig deep. And we really are interested in your story, and how did this come about for you, Patrick, in your new role?
Geez, there's a short version and a long version, so I'm going to go Goldilocks, and I promise it's relevant because of my background. So I graduated with a journalism degree out of Temple in North Philly, and I worked for the newspaper there, and I took this skill of being able to work online, run a website, take photos, make video, write stories, have human interactions, and bring all that to life to a newspaper in Southern Illinois, right outside of St. Louis. And the first job that brought me back to Philly, because I was not enjoying my life in journalism, 11 months later, was B2B publishing for the CE and CI industry, which were all acronyms I had to Google going into that interview because I had no idea what any of that meant. So I got the job and at Dealer Scope and Technology Integrator. We helped launch Connected Design when I was there as well, basically covering CE and CI as if they were their own worlds, their own universe, where people were making moves and having impact on it, and I could do interviews and talk about product. And just like everyone else who can't leave this industry, I was hooked. The black hole of CI is so real. You can never leave. And I think it's partly because it's a lot of fun, but you get to meet great people like you guys and have 20-year, 20, 30-year relationships with them. And, I know guys that are like, well, I was at his wedding, this and that. So I thought that was just so cool. And part of my responsibilities were to cover the buying groups. And I remember the first, one of my first Azione conferences, I got to interview Richard for what was going on at this conference, but also as he had a Lifetime Achievement Award. So I spent an extended time talking to him, probably 2 hours or something like that. And he's the easiest guy in the world to talk to, of course. And I remember I walked back to my seat, my boss, Mary Ellen Oswald at the time, and I said, all I want to do is have that guy's life. I said, this is so cool. This is, I'm hooked on whatever he's built here. So,
Richard Lewis is an icon, but
yeah, I mean, I wish I would have picked, Tom Brady or somebody with, a football player instead of Richard Glegs. But hey, this was my destiny, I guess. So I had my career at Dealerscope and Technology Integrator, and I had a short stint with Portal.io. I was their marketing director, and then there was a little gap in between the Dealerscope and the Portal life where Richard was like, you know what, I think you're going to come work for Richard Glegs now. And I said, oh, well, what do you want me to do? And he goes, I'm going to have you talking to dealers. I'm going to be talking to our members, talking to the vendors, and just helping us be better at what we do. So it was kind of, I feel like he made a job for me, and said, I like what you do. I like your interaction, and let's do some cool things together. And that was about 6 years ago. So it's been a while since I had Thai food with him and got the offer I couldn't refuse. So that was my background.
That's awesome. So those are big shoes to fill, right? As we all know, Richard is Richard. So watching you work at your first conference this I don't know, just like about a month ago now, right? First Azione conference. It was very natural. I thought you did an awesome job, by the way, just so you know, because I know that's a big thing. The time is the time.
That's right.
But knowing that, okay, so it's like, okay, Richard did it. He founded it. He formed it. It was really, Azione was very, in the way Richard wanted to conduct business and work. What are some of the key things that you you're going to build on, and what things might you do a little outside of the blueprint that Richard laid?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I get asked that a lot, and my answer to that is sort of what I'm not changing, right? And I think that's really important, and that is the community and the foundation that he worked really hard on putting together. And I think this thing works because Richard and I have a lot of similar DNA in who we trust in the circle of Azione for its success, whether that's bringing new dealers or new vendors, new opportunities where we go. That being very selective on building the community around a shared goal, a shared vision is very important. So that's one thing I don't want to change, is the way we've always viewed Azione, understood what its success should be, and the value of bringing the correct members and putting them into this group so that we can all succeed together. So I think that's super important. Now, the things I will look to implement all come from probably two big things. One, I'm slowly becoming not the youngest guy in the room. There are some guys, but I am the youngest guy in the room. So I think I have a different perspective on tools and how the world around us is evolving, how the internet, works at large, and how AI can be a part of what we do. But two, as I just told you, my background isn't a dealer or a vendor. I wasn't born into this world to somewhat. Some people have been doing this longer than I've been alive, which I think is a pro and a con for me. So all I can do is take what I know, take what I've seen, and apply it to where we're going to go. So it's really just about perspective for me, and how I can talk to more people and understand their business and help them empower themselves to make the right decisions. I'm not into shortcuts and silver bullets, but I do like good foundations and well-laid plans. So all I can do is take really good bits of information when I talk to really smart people, put them all together and give it out into the world. That's my strategy, and that's how I think I've gotten this far in life anyways.
Yeah, and it's really interesting you say that, because my background, when I got into this industry, I've been with D-Tools now for almost 20 years, but I came from a different industry as well. Yeah, I was in software, but like you and like Jason, I came from the media world. I was in television, I started a magazine, I was in publishing. And so the first people that I met in this industry were really the journalists,
Yeah.
Jason Knott and Carol Campbell and Julie Jacobson. And I felt like I was able to learn a lot about the industry, from them, because they're in the industry, and then going to the buying group shows, and you absorb it. And the one thing that I found that I think is really unique to this industry is that it's very relationship driven. Not that other industries aren't. I've been in e-commerce and multimedia and things like that, but this particular industry, the way people conduct business is on a very personal level, especially on the residential side. You're going into someone's home to help them improve their lifestyle as an integrator, right? And that sale is a very personal sale. It's in person, it's one-to-one, it's building the relationships, and then hopefully you're going to help your clients over years, over time, right, as systems go in. So it's really the personal nature of this industry. And what I really do love about Azione, personally, I was on the board for a couple years, is that vendors, this is the thing to me that's very unique, is that vendors are members too. So the vendors are not just vendors. We're part of the group, and our voice has always been really welcome and heard. So I agree that there's some things that you're going to want to, those hallmarks of Azione, right, that are really, really important. But I'm excited to work with you in this capacity and see where things are going. And then I'll stop talking and hand it to Jason now, because I can talk all day.
I think, Tim, you hit the nail on the head there, and so did you, Patrick. The communication element that you're going to bring to the role, Patrick, I think is going to be very well suited. And, Tim, full circle of what you're talking about, of how integrators are really friends with their customers, and the whole, onus of why we created this podcast is to kind of have that communication and friendship. So I echo the congratulations that Tim passed along to you, Patrick, for your new role. I'm very excited for you. So a couple years ago, I was actually really shocked by this. I was doing a session at CEDIA Expo, and there was about 100 guys in the room, and I was talking about the advantages of joining a buying group, and about a quarter of the audience literally did not know what a buying group was, which was shocking to me, because I just assume that they would know that this is a pervasive entity or pervasive entities. Give us kind of that 30,000 foot view right now for our listeners as to what a buying group is and why they should be joining a buying group.
I think that's super interesting, Jason. And my response would be, go to our website and apply. Let's get you into a buying group then. But you want to take a step back and understand what it is. I think the word buying group sort of has an antiquated term to what we're trying to build, right? I think that's a great place to start with something like that. But I think a buying group means you have a community with buying power in a community. I think we want to be a community with buying power, right? And I think when you focus on, and it's nuanced now to have a community, what you're really asking of both dealers and vendors is to come together, meet at our events, support each other, be transparent, and talk about how we can all solve each other's problems and celebrate each other's victories, right? So that, I think, everyone can wrap their heads around. The buying group part of it is a benefit that's on top of what I think helps build all this relationship currency that we've been talking about, right? How you meet your friends. We give them that opportunity to do that and to lean on them and to talk to them on the side about, here's what's happening in my business. Whether you're a dealer or a vendor, these are just two people now communicating with each other. So the magic of a buying group is the ability to put people together with a shared goal, a shared vision, and then share success. just like we started Share, Trust, Prosper. That was on the original logo of Azione Unlimited. That still rings true of who we want to be. And I think Buying Group doesn't articulate that very well. I think Smart Home we're an association, right? That's what we want to do. We want people to be associated with our vision and our goals and our success.
Great points. So having said that, when you look ahead for 2025, what are some of the initiatives that you've got on tap, whether it be from the marketing side or product category side or whatever?
Yeah, it's sort of solving the same problems with new tools and new ideas as they become available to us. So it's a little twofold. Some of it is the internal housekeeping and the things that we've started to build and tweak. Have those small ball victories is what I'm calling them. In the way we communicate, right? Our ability to transfer information from dealer to vendor and back and forth, whether that's through email, whether that's Slack. Slack we think is an important tool. One of my small wins, I think, is just making that community more vibrant and more alive and bringing the right people into it. Something that Azione does really well is not only do we communicate and offer benefit to the owners of a dealer's organization, but we also work with the people below it. And we have these leadership symposiums where we invite lead technicians and sales and operations and marketing at different times to come together the same way we have our events. So they can come together for 2 days, hang out with a couple of vendors, share information, meet new people. Let's bring them into the fold. Let's let them have a newsletter or Slack communication, and let's have more communication between Azione to the dealer to the vendor and back to Azione, and create that circle of communication. So there's some good housekeeping items, some stuff I think we can launch out of the gate and make really powerful. Looking ahead to some of the initiatives that we want to tap into, education is always important. And now, because we're part of Nationwide, we're able to leverage big systems that we couldn't afford or weren't able to manage on our own before, including, an LMS. Again, that's not anything new, but you can put different strategies to it. We think that it can be more of a technical, best business practices, have business coaches with different levels of module style learning put into there, beyond just speeds and feeds in the back of black boxes. I think the vendors do a really good job at putting that information out there. I think we could do a really good job at organizing how to run your system or your business more efficiently. Those are the problems that come to the table from dealers, right? They are hitting plateaus. They have a nice business. Just like you said, this is an emotional business because people really care about the work that they put out into the world. So now they got to figure out, how do I become a really good businessman? And there's a couple of really obvious plateaus that we see because we have the data from 300 people with the same problem. So let's create ways to break through that, whether that's operationally, how you're training your team, financially, building better culture so you have better retention, how you find these people. All that's super important. So now we have a house for that inside of our LMS. And then improving on our leadership symposiums. There is magic to having that next level down come together and meet for a couple of days. So we have a couple of cool tweaks that we just got off a call with the advisory board yesterday that we want to put out into the world, as we think this is a huge benefit to your team. Why wouldn't you want to make your team empowered and feel good about what they do and meet other people in similar roles? So it's again, what are the number one problems in this industry? Can't find labor, and I'm not operationally efficient, right? I'm a really good integrator, and I want to make more money. And the number one goal of Azione Unlimited is make our members more profitable, both vendors and dealers. So let's solve that problem together.
It sounds like you're touching your dealers consistently. So it's not just a couple times a year or 3 times a year where you get to see these guys. You're in communication, whether it be online education or these symposium that you're doing. So it really makes it really a year-round conversation that you're having with your members, it sounds like.
It is, and we can only do that because we can utilize some of these people at Nationwide, because they have a team. Now, they're exponentially bigger than us, right? They have 400 staff to our about 5, and they have 5,000 members to our 317. So they know how to do this pretty well. So when I tell them I need to prop up an event for 100 people, they say, thank you so much. I can help you with that. I know a place that can put 100 people together and have a really good time. So we're the best of both worlds right now, where we have big power to help us move things quickly, but we're small enough that if we need to turn and make a tweak and be agile, we can still do that too. So it's a great mix right now heading into the next year as the dust settles and we move into our next chapter of Azione.
Let's talk a little bit about the state of the business. So we see in D-Tools that integrators are producing more proposals, but they're essentially signing the same number of contracts. However, the average price point of those contracts is up. So there's strength in terms of the size of the projects that they're doing, but they're doing the same number of projects, and they're working a little harder to find more clients for those projects. What are you seeing from your members right now in the state of the business?
It's pretty much the same, and I think if I were to have a way to quantify that, we have vendors with very specific high-end products. They're doing really well, right? That to me signals that big projects are the ones that are getting sold, and that's the product being bought, right? It's not just a dollar amount, but it's a units going up, and it's the amount of dealers that are able to sell it. So there's more dealers selling more products on the high end, which means more high-end projects are going out. That's the anecdotal sort of story I can tell from the data points that Azione collects. Overall, our business is about down. We were praying for flat. We're getting into that number. We are comping some pretty big months as we end the year. But we're seeing the same thing, I think, as you guys. It's the high-end projects. The middle of the market has dried up, significantly. I think that's a little worrisome as people worry about cash flow. And what do I do when the small projects that used to keep moving and I could count on them to help that out disappear? I'm sure you guys saw a big vacuum as election week. This is every 4 years. There's a vacuum of activity where nothing happens for a week because we all hold our breath and figure out who's going to be the next president of the United States. So that, we're not immune to that either. And it's also interesting when we can, again, look at the nationwide data who work in the retail space and appliance space, and we can kind of correlate with them. What are you seeing out there as this giant entity who can tap into real data like Circana now, right? That data. And I said to you earlier, Tim, that data is not relevant, but in a way it is, right? You can get the temperature check of the consumer if you start seeing some dips in units being sold on any commodity item. I think that just explains if people want to spend their money or not. Let's put it simple, right? In an emotional sale. So it's a mixed bag. There's vendors that are up and down that have switched places. There are dealers that are up and down, especially the ones that really relied on sort of those quick hits, those quicker jobs to bring cash flow together.
All right, one last question for me, and then I'm going to turn it back over to Tim. When you look at your members and you talk to them, obviously on a daily basis, what do you see as the biggest mistake or the area of improvement that they need the most?
This is a great question. Oh man, it's always about operational efficiencies for the most part, and I think that's because the best and most successful dealers have two brains at the top, and it's the really good integrator and it's a really good businessman. 90% of these businesses are really good integrators. They love what they do. They got really good at it. And then they started getting good referrals. Now, referrals, as Richard always said, is like hiding out in a foxhole. Waiting for business to come to you is not the way you should be doing that. You should market in the good times, and you should have a system that's beyond just my friend's going to tell you about that. Project-based business is hard to prop up when you stop getting marketing in, right? So good business ideas is have a constant flow of marketing when you can afford it. Talk to your clients that you already had. What's more valuable than someone that already trusts you and knows what you do, and you can go back into their house with upgrades and good service. And then have that RMR, right? Create some way that you're staying in touch with your clients, you're supporting them, but they're paying you for that service, right? And then you can have diversifying your top line, right? Bring more money in on your service. So talk to your clients, build a better service department, and then become more operational efficiencies. Build processes and stick to them, just one at a time. Don't boil the ocean, but start building out processes that people are sticking to, and then you can standardize everything from top to bottom. I think those are, these aren't. It's the what do they say in Good to Great? From Good to Great in the book, it's the laws of gravity never change. Doesn't matter what equation you put in. The laws of gravity are the same. So the laws of gravity are just like good business. Just you have to abide by them if you want to succeed.
Yeah, and that's where it's always found, for us at D-Tools, our mission's always to just help integrators run better businesses. And we feel that we have tools and a platform that helps them put everything you just said into practice, right? And that we really just complement it. You got to have a process, right? Whatever process it is, you got to have one. And then if you have tools that help you stay to that process, maybe do better in that process, maybe introduce something new to your business, such as RMR or service, and things that are going to help you really maintain and grow that business. And that's really what we saw too. It's like a lot of, especially on the residential side, they started their business. They were really good at it. They loved the craft. They loved the gear. They loved doing the systems. And then all of a sudden, oh my God, I got a business, right?
Yeah.
Now I got to sustain it. And one of I would say that in my entire career here at D-Tools, one of the most gratifying things is when I do get to, when I used to sell directly and, sell to integrators and help them and then see them 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years down the road, how we've helped them, right? We've helped them build their business, or, wow, we've sold so much through your software, and then really the tools that you have to help us manage it. It's awesome. That honestly, that's the most gratifying thing, and that's why I always felt like we were so aligned between Azione and D-Tools. So I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, it's a shared vision. I don't think there is a common mistake people make. I think every business is a compilation of a lot of big wins because they've learned from those little mistakes. And I think different people have different problems that are popping up. The number one problem is labor, right? How do we tell this world about what we do and get them excited about that? I think Azione can help in a very specific way of bringing someone up to speed, but also you have to make it yours. Everything you do as an integrator, you have to make it yours. So how do you take these standardizations of what somebody should know in the first 6 months, but put your culture on it, your processes on it? But have you written that down? Do you know what that is? What is the why of your business? I had a bunch of symposiums with lead technicians, operations, and what we called emerging leaders, someone that's going to lead a team, right? Vice presidents to the lead on the rough-in team, right?
Right.
And I said, what is the why of your business? Not the what. We know what you do, but why? Why do you do it? Why do you exist? And I think that was an interesting way to get different opinions from people where they go, well, why do we exist? Why do we want to be out into the world and do what we do? So I think once we can, you're, as an owner, you understand that, you can put that out into the world and you can attract the right people to help move in the right direction. And once you have good people, the rest of the problems you can start solving themselves. You can figure that out. So get good people, get good processes, and then you can have a really good business out there in the world.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect note to wrap on, actually. So I wish you the best. Thank you so much for being here with us, Patrick, today.
Thank you, guys. No, I really appreciate it. And, we can't do it without members like you. So I'm so happy to have you guys. I'm happy you had me then on the Thanksgiving episode. I feel very special.
Very
favorite holiday episode.
What are your Thanksgiving plans then?
So my girlfriend has a giant family, so we are going to go hang out with it's like 6 cousins, 4 or 5 uncles, a bunch of kids running around. So it's a madhouse. It's all the chaos of the holiday seasons that you could want. So I'm very lucky to be able to do that for Thanksgiving and Christmas and hang out with them, and it's going to be good. Turkey legs and all the fixins flying around.
Awesome. Jason, how about you?
Yard work,
You know, there's guys for that. You know?
I know. Well, I think my wife thinks I'm that guy. So
Yeah,
That's right.
But no, we'll be doing the same thing, Patrick. My wife's got a big family, so we'll get together, and my daughter's coming home from college, and so should be a good time.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
I'm gonna have a full house too, both my daughters and spouses. So, yep, should be fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
Well, Jason, take us out.
All right. Well, reminder to everybody, if you like the What's the Buzz podcast, as Tim mentioned earlier, please subscribe on Spotify, Apple, and any other streaming services. Watch us on our YouTube channel. And thank you for joining us on the November edition of the What's the Buzz podcast, everybody.